Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we welcome the recipients of this year's traditional awards, the members of our Board of Trustees, as well as the President, officials, and faculty members of Ateneo de Manila University. the Ateneo College Glee Club will lead us in singing Lupang Hinirang.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titin mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisihip. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bugaw, may dinagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig, ang bituin at araw niyang kailan pang may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay ang langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for the invocation immediately following. You may now take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Dr. Joet Cecilia F. Magsaysay, Dean of the Ateneo Graduate School of Business and today's Master of Ceremonies. Dr. Maria Luz C. Vilches, Vice President for Higher Education, will now open the ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this 6th day of November, in the year of our Lord 2024, in the presence of our Board of Trustees and university officials, our distinguished awardees and guests, our assembled faculty, administrators, students, non-teaching personnel, alumni, and friends, on the occasion of the annual conferment of the university's traditional awards, I now declare this special academic convocation officially open.
Father Roberto Siap of the Society of Jesus, President of Ateneo de Manila University, will deliver the welcome remarks.
Members of the Ateneo de Manila Board of Trustees, university administrators, faculty, staff, and students, honored awardees, past and present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On May 9, 2024, the solemnity of the Ascension, Pope Francis officially proclaimed 2025 a year of Jubilee. With its opening words, "Hope does not disappoint," the papal exhortation centers on hope, calling on all of us to be pilgrims of hope. The Pope writes, "In the heart of each person, hope dwells as the desire and expectation of good things to come, despite our not knowing what the future may bring." He adds, "We are also called to discover hope in the signs of the times that the Lord gives us." How complicated these times are, from health crises and natural disasters to climate change and escalating conflicts like those in Ukraine and Gaza, problems and issues continue to pile up for this planet we call home. Challenges and uncertainties beset our country, including poverty, disparity in healthcare access, displacement and economic loss brought by landslides and floods, extrajudicial killings, and the growing tension in the West Philippine Sea. Amidst these difficult times, we yearn for hope. Today, we celebrate the resilience of the human spirit, this unwavering hope that keeps us moving forward in a world that often feels fragmented. We are privileged to honor 6 pilgrims of hope: a master of interweaving sociology and theater to draw our attention to the social realities of life, a tausug lawyer, human rights advocate, and parliamentarian whose unwavering commitment to the welfare of the marginalized sector serves as an example of excellence for us. A woman who chose to give support, grace, and peace to young people afflicted with diseases and their families and caregivers. A man who started his career in agribusiness and government but left everything to lead a change in driving environmental solutions that are tangible, inclusive, and sustainable. An award-winning playwright brimming with wit, imagination, and love for the human spirit. And a religious man who walks with the last, the least, and the lost, showing them the compassion and mercy of the Lord. Another honoree, Attorney Laila M. De Lima, will be conferred her honorary degree in June 2025. Day in and day out, in joys and sorrows, through thick and thin, these individuals are doing what they are called to do, being bearers of hope, truth, light, and goodness. Two of our awardees have already left to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Still, they are the ingenious embodiments of joie de vivre, taking us to the most amazing places through their works. Their influence and impact on the arts and creative world are truly beyond measure. May their memories be a blessing that inspires us to lead lives in the deepest and most fulfilling of ways. Recipients of our 2024 Traditional University Awards embody what it means to give glory to God and use our gifts and talents in ways that our Creator has made us to teach, inspire, learn, and ultimately to love and serve. Life has no guarantees, and setbacks and disappointments are part of being alive. But as long as we bear witness to the faithfulness of God's Word, we can be the difference that the world needs. May today be an invitation for us, regardless of age, background, and ethnicity, to work together and advance the common good. May the stories of our honorees inspire us to go forth in life as pilgrims of hope. Welcome to the conferment of the 2024 Traditional University Awards. Welcome to Ateneo de Manila.
So the function of art is not nitty-gritty, hindi practical. We will not build bridges. We will not deliver food. But what we can do is persuade the people to empathize with the problem.
Ricardo Abad was a man of many passions and talents. But in his world, they were not competing. They often converged, one serving or enhancing the other. For almost 50 years, Ricky Abad was a teacher of sociology and other social sciences in Ateneo de Manila University. He was a scholar who had published sociological research studies and served as editor of social science journals. Ricky was also a theater actor, director, and producer of plays. He was also the moderator of Tanghalang Ateneo and served as its longest-running artistic director for many years, mounting more than 250 productions and training hundreds of students in the theater arts. Sociology, literature, Philippine culture, and theater. These were some of the things he loved deeply and figured prominently in his works, often in artistic entanglement.
You know, the whole Woodstock Revolution, the Beatnik Revolution, flower power, flower power! It ended the Vietnam War. They were not politicians. They were not politicians. So young people singing, protesting through songs.
His masterful interweaving of sociology and theater is amply demonstrated in many of his works, particularly in his reimagination of Shakespearean plays that have been translated into Filipino. In many of them, one sees the amount of work he had put in towards enculturating, localizing, and decolonizing Western productions to reflect Philippine realities.
Merong tinatawag sa English na edge. May konting tulak. Ganon.
Colonization and resistance emerge in Pagpapaamo sa Maldita, 2002, a decolonized adaptation of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. His Shakespearean decolonial reinventions continued with the production of Sindang Dalisay, 2012, which readapts Romeo and Juliet's star-crossed love affair in the context of Sama Bajau culture, kindred networks, music, dance, and performative art. Current issues are commonly found in his productions, such as in Azul, Ang Serena ng Sigua, 2021, a play on resource conflicts, globality, and climate migration.
What we're looking for are sparks. But it's, sabi ko, hindi lang individual artists. Gusto ko mag-collaborate yung other snap. And all that ideas will merge together in some sort of togetherness, harmony, and beauty. And at the same time, move people.
Ricky once said that he had two strong desires: to give others, students mostly, alternative and still meaningful visions of themselves and the social world, and to reach out to other cultural traditions that will energize the theater. His life, without a doubt, was a fulfillment of these desires.
Receiving the award for Dr. Ricardo G. Abad are his wife, Dr. Elizabeth Eviota, and sister, Ms. Dulce Abad. Dr. Eviota and Ms. Abad are requested to approach center stage for the reading of the citation by Dr. Maria Luz Vilches.
For his academic and theater accomplishments that paint the picture of a Filipino who endeavored to celebrate all aspects of being human. For making theater, sociology, and education borderless disciplines aligned to edify the Filipino. And for creating a life of daring, meaningful service. The Ateneo de Manila University posthumously confers on Dr. Ricardo G. Abad the Gawad Tanglaw ng Lahi.
Father Yap will now present the award to Dr. Eviota and Ms. Abad. Dr. Eviota will now give her response.
Good afternoon. Ateneo was home for Ricky. Some, perhaps many of you, knew him from his expressive and lively presence on campus. His talks, remember his Happiness is Contagious workshop, his hosting of events, his classes, and most of all, as actor and director in his theatrical productions. Ricky once said, "I liken myself to a minstrel. The minstrel of medieval times was a performer who delighted not only in pleasing the public, but also in teaching the public through the medium of entertainment. The idea of performing and instructing at the same time is something I've always wanted." Ricky had two passions in life, kahiligan he called it, sociology and theater arts, one enriching the other, playing out in parallel and overlapping lines on a stage that was the Ateneo. His contributions, infusing sociology and the arts, were extraordinary, spanning research, scientific publications, performance, acting, directing theater, writing creative works, teaching, social commentary, and outreach. His body of work includes over 100 publications and academic papers, over 200 theater productions, and over 300 workshops and webinars in theater arts, teaching practices, Philippine culture, and social research in both Filipino and English. He shared these passions unselfishly with friends, colleagues, students, actors, community workers, prison inmates, and disadvantaged youth. He was a mentor to many through life's passages and across generations. Ninong at their weddings, ninong to their children, teacher to parent-child students. As Father Rene Habellano described him, He was cool. He was the man for others, cura personalis, and the magis guy all rolled into one. And as Father Rene recounts, if the teachers at the Loyola School of Theology have a lilt in their lectures and penetrating gazes at their audiences, and students and graduates deliver better homilies and read the gospel, not like a shopping list, but with understanding and a subtle dramatic flair, it's because of Ricky's workshops. Ricky's innovation in theater, here and elsewhere, was his localization of Shakespeare. The playwright's words, yes, but infused with the Filipino and Asian sensibility. He extended his mentor, Rolando Tiño's work from translating Western classics into Filipino to finding the Filipino heart in Shakespeare. He was much appreciated abroad by colleagues for his work on decolonizing the playwright, or as he described it in his disarmingly cheeky way, a sweet, sour Shakespeare. His legacy lives on in such places as India, China, Vietnam, Spain, Belarus, Malaysia, and in Subic, Bohol, and the streets of Vigan. His papers and stagings of reimagining Shakespeare in the early 2000s launched his reputation as an international director and placed Ateneo Theater on the international scene for the first time. Ricky's reimagining of Western classics was part and parcel of his turn toward the intercultural, or in his words, the interweaving of different cultures in a theatrical production. The question is not so much what the author or play says, but what the classic text says about the present. In practice, it means listening to other cultures, voices, or performing traditions. This entanglement of cultures was realized in Ricky's Sintang Dalisay, an adaptation of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet in an imaginary Muslim setting that deployed the igal, the dance of the Sama Bajau, as the movement and overall motif. In Ricky's words, Sintang Dalisay was in the end an opportunity to use the power of the theater to build dialogue between two groups that have misunderstood each other for centuries. Truly, it is a utopian vision of theater. Sintang Dalisay would be Ricky's most famous work, armed with Salvador Bernal's set designs and the actors of Tanghalang Ateneo. It would be performed more than 60 times here and abroad. This entanglement of cultures would be Ricky's lasting and distinctive contribution as a Filipino theater artist. But the interweaving task was more than an aesthetic effort. It was also an occasion to comment on the machinations of the dominant political apparatus. For this reason, Ricky selected plays where characters strive to break down or resist obstacles that impede the practice of noble ideals. Among them, the inequities of class in Clifford's Light in the Village, freedom of speech in Ibsen's The Enemy of the People, colonial oppression in Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, the heartlessness of dictatorships in Sophocles' Antigone, and the fight for political independence in Tu Bayani. For Ricky and his cast and crew, theater was liberating and empowering. Implicit in Ricky's vision of theater was the quest for social transformation. As Ricky did with art, he did with sociology. Sociologists use the phrase, the sociological imagination, to describe a way of making connections between private and public worlds, the particular and the general, and biography and history. This means in order to think critically, we need to link what is happening to us in our small worlds with larger systemic forces that rule us all. Thus, he did sociology with a critical lens on the structures of power and wielded the power of art at authorities who curtailed, dulled, and oppressed. He once explained the role of sociologists in society as regularly debunking presuppositions by looking behind conventions of power and questioning official definitions of political reality. His groundbreaking work on social capital in the Philippines, based on his reading of social weather stations surveys, is on the must-read list of many a course on social inequality in Ateneo and elsewhere. And finally, Ricky combined his creative energy with a compassionate heart to be of service to others. Through a social enterprise group he formed with Tanghalang Ateneo members called Role Players, he launched in 2005 many continuing projects such as his Art of Directing People workshops for Ateneo's Center for Continuing Education Leadership Program, his dynamic classrooms activity for teachers on how to use theater to effectively deliver their lessons, his Theater for Kids, which gave acting workshops to disadvantaged youth to build confidence to express themselves, and his Shakespeare at Bilibid, his project of workshops and performances, which offered the young inmates, in his words, a safe space for them to create characters, bond with others, and assume roles in production more edifying and diverse than those experienced in their incarcerated lives. During the pandemic, he collaborated with Ateneo Children's Theater for Sandaang Salaysay, an Areté podcast of Filipino children's stories, which opened up to the very young our oral and literary heritage in the way that was engaging and accessible. Following the pandemic lockdowns, he produced Azul, ang Sirena ng Sigua, a play on resource conflicts and climate migration, and a video presentation on risk and resilience in the city, which synthesized the research and public actions of scientists working with coastal cities. Ricky held many positions on campus, among others, Department Chair of Sociology and Anthropology, and as IPC Director, in national academic organizations such as President of the Philippine Sociological Society, and as board member in theater arts organizations such as the International Association of Theater Leaders. Father Jet Villarin described him as a shoe-in for Areté's first artistic director because he embodied its spirit of tradition and rebellion, discipline and fluidity, rootedness and transcendence. He was honored with many awards in Ateneo, among them a Lifetime Award in Humanities, where he was a founding director of the Department of Fine Arts. Outstanding work in social science, Professor Emeritus, and Best Moderator Award for his work in Tanghalang Ateneo. He was deservedly recognized by the community at large with the Metrobank Outstanding Teacher Award in 2001, and again in 2009, the Metrobank Award for Continuing Excellence and Service. He also received Best Director honors from performing arts organizations such as Aliw and Golden Leaf. Ricky's commitment to social justice as sociologist and artist was embodied in his insistence that theater was not just an art, it was a weapon of change. And the better the students become, the more effective they will be in liberating people, including themselves, from oppressive systems, intellectual rigidity, and moral backwardness. As a sociologist and theater artist, Ricky Abad crafted the ability to merge scientific logic and artistic intuition, a disposition that enabled him to do creative sociology and analytical theater. In this work, as teacher, scholar, institution builder, and performing artist, an Ateneo colleague would say, Ricky's theater moved my intellectually driven life to take on softer textures, patterns, and hues as far as viewing and acting on the world that lies before me. For me, the ability to transform people's hearts and spirits is much, much more than a mark of excellence and achievement, but a distinct marker of man's creative impetus and leadership before humanity and the nation. In 2010, when asked what he thought his legacy was, Ricky answered, I would like to think that during my stay in the Ateneo, I have moved or inspired people to do good, to be better persons, to love the country. That's my spirit in others. We can never replicate Ricky as performance artists, nor can we recapture his creative genius, but we can look for inspiration in many of his efforts to interweave his two passions, sociology and theater arts, in the service of a better world. So, thank you, Ateneo, and the Jesuits, for providing my dear Ricky with a welcoming and nurturing environment to do his work and his art. And thank you too to his friends, colleagues, collaborators, students, and mentees who will now carry on his legacy. Thank you.
Lalahok po ba ang mga babae upang magkaroon ng kinatawan sa Parliament? Para may maitalaga na miyembro ng kabinete? Para may representante sa Council of Leaders?
Raisa Herradura Jajuri was born in Holosulu, but left at a young age when her family moved to Manila to escape the ravages of war in Muslim Mindanao. She may have left her place of origin, but its people never left her. There was always a desire to serve them, to make their lives better, even as she became a lawyer and worked for 20 years in Saligan, defending poor litigants and teaching them about their rights. It found expression in 2011 when she was invited to join the MILF delegation in negotiating with the government of the Philippines for peace in the Bangsamoro. In 2013, she was appointed by President Benigno Aquino III to be a member of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission, which was tasked to draft the Bangsamoro Basic Law, where she was chair of the Committee on Fiscal Autonomy. In 2019, Jajuri was appointed as one of the 80 members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, the interim government of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, BARM. She was reappointed in 2022. In the BARM, Jajuri serves exceedingly well in the executive and legislative departments. She heads the Ministry of Social Services and Development, or MSSD, the third largest in the BARM bureaucracy. Apart from overseeing the rollout of 5 nationally funded programs under the Department of Social Welfare and Development, MSSD has 15 flagship initiatives, some of which had never been offered before. One of the most impactful of these is the Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro program, which offers comprehensive support to over 41,000 of the region's poorest households.
Ang ideya sa Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro ay matulungan ang mga mahihirap na pamilya na umangat ang kalagayan mula sa survival patungo sa subsistence o mula sa subsistence patungo sa pagiging self-sufficient.
In the last 5 years, MSSD has served over 2.5 million clients. At least 844,000 under nationally funded programs and about 1.7 million in its own flagship programs. These include women, children, the elderly, and indigenous peoples, among others. As a member of the Parliament, Jajuri serves as subcommittee chairperson of the Committee on Finance, Budget, and Management for the budget deliberations.
Sama-sama po nating tahakin ang daan para sa mga susunod na henerasyon na nawa ay may pantay na dignidad ang babae at lalaki.
The quality of Raisa Jajuri's public service and leadership is desperately needed in many places, but none more so than in one of the most underserved regions in the country, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. She has served and continues to serve with integrity, great competency, and unceasing concern for the disadvantaged.
The Honorable Raisa H. Jajuri is requested to approach center stage for the reading of the citation by Dr. Philip Arnold Tuanyo, Dean of the Ateneo School of Government.
For dedicating her life to the promotion of peace, justice, and development, especially in the most underserved region of the country, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, the Ateneo de Manila University confers the Government Service Award on Raisa H. Jajuri.
Father Yap will now present the award to the Honorable Raisa H. Jajuri. We would like to invite her husband, Mr. Jamil Alim, to join the Honorable Jajuri on stage. The Honorable Raisa H. Jajuri will now give her response.
Magandang hapon po. Let me greet everyone the way we do in the Bangsamoro. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, which literally means peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Sa totoo po ay hindi ko po inaasahan o pinangarap at hanggang kamakailan ay hindi pinaniwala ang totoo ang pagkilalang ito. But I am truly grateful to those who are responsible for the nomination and those who are behind the decision to include me in the distinguished list of recipients of the Ateneo Traditional University Awards. In a sense, this campus was my home for more than 1 decade, as I attended classes here from 1983 to 1987, reported for work at Workers' College in Colayco Hall, and then at Saligan in the Social Development Complex, before moving to Davao City in 2002 to work on the operations of the Saligan Mindanao branch. Of course, as a volunteer of the Ateneo's Office of Social Concern and Involvement, or OSCI, I was with fellow students who thrived in the campus with our counterculture, wearing sandals or slippers, attending anti-Marcos dictatorship rallies, and playing trump or tong-its card games in the OSCI Volunteers Tambayan Room. So it feels good to be back again in this campus. I am grateful to the Ateneo for the many things I have learned, not only from inside its classrooms, but more importantly, from the friends I have made and the institutions I have joined, many, if not all of which, were founded or organized by fellow Ateneans or influenced by them. Throughout my long journey, I have taken with me some very simple and fundamental learnings from my exposure to Ateneo, the school, Atenista, the friends and colleagues, and the Ateneo influence institutions I have been involved in. Let me share just 5 of them. 1, live modestly. Modesty is a value that should guide how we live as we strive for social justice, where we try to dismantle the dichotomy of the rich and the powerful on the one hand, and the poor and the powerless on the other. As a fellow Saligan colleague has aptly said, while the position of power we occupy may bring privileges and comfort, mahirap pong masanay. So live without much of the trappings that may not be there later anyway. Number 2, work hard and give it your all. Your chosen work should be something you believe in. And if we are fortunate enough to have found that work, then we have to do everything we possibly can, not for the compensation, recognition, or rewards, but for the satisfaction in achieving a worthy purpose, or at the very least, living your life towards that goal. Number 3, be loyal to the cause. Do not deviate, stay the course. What you seek may not always be easily found. In fact, you may more often feel that you are failing to achieve anything, but small incremental successes will take you there, or at the minimum, bring you to that direction. Number 4, be kind and just to others. Treat them in the way you want to be treated. Kindness, even in the smallest acts, takes some of the edges from this world. Number 5, give time to reflect. This I learned after the many retreats I was made to take, mostly in work-related settings. Retreats are now a luxury for me, and I now realize that introspection, reflection, and prayerful moments away from life's regular grind allows us to restart our engine, gather our strength, and give us insights on the next steps we take. I know that these are just a very small fraction of the learnings I have taken with me, but these basic life lessons have helped me overcome some of the more challenging, disheartening, tiring periods of my civil society and public service work. Allow me now to segue into the work I do in the Bangsamoro. The Bangsamoro is now transitioning from the defunct ARMM to the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM as we call it. And it is also transitioning from conflict to peace and from destruction to rehabilitation and rebuilding. It is quite distinct from other areas in the country which have administrative regions but not governments of their own, and also quite distinct from the national government, which has an essentially presidential form of government, while the Bangsamoro has a parliamentary form. The Bangsamoro is autonomous, having an 80-member parliament that enacts laws for the region and deliberates and approves its own budget. It also has ministries, offices, and agencies that execute laws and implement programs for its constituencies. The leadership in the BARM during this transition period are rebels who are from the Moro liberation fronts that fought for independence for decades. While there are still so many things that we have to do to strengthen governance in the region, there are some bright spots that may just support a better picture for self-governance within the Philippines. From 52.6% of poverty incidents in 2018, poverty is now down to 23.5% in 2023, showing a reduction of almost 30%. While this puts the Bangsamoro still to the poorest bottom, we should still acknowledge that the infusion of more resources, the stronger political autonomy, and the relative peace brought about by the peace process and other similar initiatives have changed the game. The Bangsamoro Parliament has also introduced innovative features in its local governance and electoral codes, strengthening representation of non-Moro indigenous peoples, setting an anti-dynasty provision, requiring women's agenda for political parties, and setting a minimum of 30% women in the nominees for party representation in the parliament, among others. It has also recently passed a law protecting and promoting the rights of internally displaced persons, a measure that unfortunately slipped through the Philippine Congress, and will also soon be passing a law on indigenous people's rights. It has slowly created a bureaucracy that can exercise the powers that have been transferred to it. Intergovernmental relations bodies have been created and have started functioning, thereby providing for mechanisms for dialogues and problem solving between national government and the Bangsamoro government. We will need support for the many challenges facing the Bangsamoro, as we are still very far from the envisioned autonomy arrangement. While we appreciate interventions from different partners that extend technical assistance to the Bangsamoro government, we likewise have to make sure that the national government also has the correct perspective on autonomy, thereby giving way to better intergovernmental relations and allowing the Bangsamoro government to exercise its mandate to the fullest. We have to remind the national government that autonomy can only thrive if there is respect and support from its side for the discharge of the powers by the Bangsamoro government. Further, we can also prompt the national government to continue to deliver on the peace agreement by providing for socio-economic package for decommissioned combatants, creating the National Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission, and investing in the transformation of the camps, among many others. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, thank you once again for the acknowledgement of the work many of us are doing in and for the Bangsamoro. To my family, salamat for putting up with me and also for being the first mentors who helped shape my life today. I also thank my additional new family, Gemel and the kids, for giving me a home in Cotabato City, a shelter where we nurture our shared and separate advocacies. To the Ateneo de Manila University and its community, muli, salamat po for all the life lessons you have imparted to me, leading me to this stage of my life. May our paths be blessed by God and our hearts purified by our intention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Minsan yung mga bata throughout their treatment during the year, parang they want to give up now or sometimes they feel so low. Pero pag sinasabi namin, oh, kailangan lumaban ka kasi may summer camp. Kasi this is a very good way to celebrate life.
In 1990, after spending days with pediatric cancer patients in a hospital as part of her coursework in psychology, Maria Fatima Gurley Garcia Lorenzo and her classmate, Iker Castro, started KAITH, a student-led volunteer organization that sought to bring play to indigent pediatric cancer patients. Shortly after, in a psychology conference, she learned about child life, a field of study that prepares one to provide psychosocial support to a child undergoing a medical challenge by teaching him ways of coping through play, preparation, education, and self-expression. After becoming a child life intern at the University of California, San Francisco, she offered child life services in KAITH in 1992. In 2001, she became a child life specialist, allowing her to train KAITH volunteers in child life care. Today, KAITH has a team of specialists providing indigent pediatric patients and their families counseling and emotional support from the point of disclosure to the end of the child's illness. The team is supplemented by child life coordinators, composed of nurses, midwives, other medical professionals, and volunteers.
Kahit paano po, nababawasan po yung iniisip namin sa mga gamot po kasi pinoprovide po ng kahit foundation yung mga gamot po namin.
Masaya naman po. Marami pong malalaro. Halos di nyo na po maalalang may sakit po pala kayo.
Lubos po kami nagpapasalamat kasi patuloy niyo po kami pinapasaya at binibigyan po ng pangangailangan po namin.
The support Kite extends to public hospitals is much appreciated now, but it took Gurley some time to convince hospital administrators to include psychosocial support in the hospital services and formally integrate them into the treatment given to a patient. It is Gurley Lorenzo's vision to change the way hospitals think about psychological and social support from a supplemental service into an integrated part of the healthcare field in the Philippines. This may not remain a vision after the passage of the National Integrated Cancer Control Act, NICA, in 2019, which requires government and private hospitals to provide psychosocial child life services if they have pediatric cancer patients. Maria Fatima Garcia Lorenzo has contributed significantly to the institutionalization of psychosocial support for sick children in many public hospitals.
Gawin natin ang lahat sa ating abot isip, abot kamay, at abot puso.
She remains committed to this, driven by her deep compassion and generosity of spirit, rooted in a strong desire and commitment to imitate Christ.
Ms. Maria Fatima Garcia Lorenzo is requested to approach center stage for the reading of the citation by Dr. Benjamin Gerardo T. Tolosa Jr., Vice President for Mission Integration.
For devoting more than 30 years of her life to help alleviate the pain of pediatric patients and their families and caregivers by way of psychosocial support. For promoting a holistic approach to patient care and healing, and for inspiring change, proving that with compassion and dedication, even the most vulnerable can thrive. The Ateneo de Manila University proudly confers the Osanam Award on Ms. Maria Fatima Garcia Lorenzo.
Father Yap will now present the award to Ms. Maria Fatima Garcia Lorenzo. We would like to invite her husband, Mr. Victorio Joseph Lorenzo, and Ms. Maria Carmen Castro, Kai Foundation's co-founder, to join Ms. Garcia Lorenzo on stage. Ms. Garcia Lorenzo will now give her response.
Good afternoon. I'm deeply grateful to the distinguished men and women of the Ateneo Board of Trustees, led by President Father Roberto C. Yap, SJ, and the Ateneo community for choosing me as this year's recipient of the Ozanam Award. I share this award with my family, who have been very supportive of my work. Thank you to my Papa, Attorney Ramon T. Garcia, and Mama Gloria Ocampo Garcia, whom I know are smiling from heaven. Thank you to my husband Jess, my sister Marivic and husband T.G. Gingona, and brothers Father Monchit Garcia Jr. from the Salesians of Don Bosco, Joey and his wife Corito Garcia and their children Bernice, Brian, Marian, Marielle, and my grandniece, Frankie. I honor the presence of KITE co-founder Icar Castro and the KITE Foundation Board of Trustees President, Ms. Malu Debuncio. The core team, led by Executive Director Odette Magno, the current KITE Ateneo Executive Board, led by Alexandra Janine Tambieng, my fellow patient leaders from the Philippine Alliance of Patient Organizations, Ara, Nelia, Janet, and to all past and current KITE volunteers present here today. May I see you raise your hands? Who are our KITE volunteers present today? Raise your hand. This is our award. KITE was founded 32 years ago by two Ateneo psychology graduate students. Icar Castro was finishing her thesis, and I was doing my coursework in play therapy with Dr. Honey Karandang at the Tumor Clinic in East Avenue Medical Center. One fine afternoon, Icar and I were reflecting on our experience while seated on the bench at the psychology department, which used to be at the Bellarmine Hall. We realized we needed to continue to provide psychosocial support to the children and their families living with cancer. Icar and I believe it takes more than medicine to get well. So, we agreed to recruit volunteers to play with the children once a week, Wednesdays, which was the Children's Chemotherapy Day. I was surprised to get a call from Icar a few days after our discussion, and she said, "Don't be surprised if you get calls from strangers, huh? I posted a volunteer sign-up sheet on the psychology bulletin board, and I put your name and phone number." There were about 30 graduate and undergraduate students who signed up. Icar and I trained these volunteers so they were equipped to interact with children who had health issues. And so it began. These trained volunteers went to the tumor clinic every Wednesday to provide joy and happiness to the children while they were in the hospital. After grad school, Icar moved on and became our link to the corporate world, and I stayed on to handle KITE's day-to-day operations as executive director for 30 years. And in those 30 years, with the support of the Board of Trustees, core team, volunteers, and donors, KITE expanded its psychosocial program called the KITE Child Life Services to 9 hospitals nationwide and has since served 20,000 children living with cancer and other chronic illness. I believe KITE has been transforming the lives of patients, parents, and volunteers. A few years ago, as I was walking on the parking lot of the Carino Memorial Medical Center, there was a lady who stopped to say hello. She hugged me and started to cry. She kept saying thank you for everything KITE has done for her daughter. It was only when she mentioned the name of her daughter did I realize she was the mom of one of our former patients, Chato. Chato had retinoblastoma, cancer of the eye, is now a survivor, married, and gainfully employed in Singapore. I also remember an activity when the KITE Ateneo volunteers were preparing a surprise 18th birthday party for one of our patients, Juvideth. The KITE Ateneo volunteers secured the venue, prepared her gown, bought the cake, even enlisted 18 good-looking Ateneo male volunteers Who would give her roses during her first dance? Everything was set. A day before the big event, Juvidet died. The volunteers were heartbroken. One volunteer was deeply affected by this experience and decided to pursue a career in medicine so he could provide children living with cancer quality of life. He is now pursuing further studies to become a pediatric palliative care specialist. He is with us here today, Dr. Lloyd Nang, over there at the back. Kite has also been playing a role in transforming the public health system. The year 2019 was a significant year for us because the National Integrated Cancer Control Act was passed, and the law included the provision of supportive, palliative, and child life services in appropriate health care services. Furthermore, the Department of Health has included child life services in the Manual of Operations, Policies, and Standards in the implementation of palliative and hospice care programs in the country. The rollout of this program started in October this year, and Kite trained the Department of Health palliative teams on pediatric palliative child life services. After so many years, we are now finally seeing the fruits of our labor. The Kite Child Life Services will soon be integrated in the public health care system. This means children and their families can access the much-needed psychosocial support. As our frontier, we look towards advocating for child life professionals within the medical education field to address the human resource demand of the NICA law. We look at child life as a set of competencies and a profession. While we've made significant strides, the frontier of psychosocial care remains vast. We eagerly anticipate collaborations with more institutions to deepen our impact. As this practice becomes increasingly integrated into healthcare, we envision a future where it is a basic standard and healthcare service expectation and delivery. Kite is now on its 32nd year. 32 years seem long, but the lives we have touched and changed is well worth the journey. I retired as Executive Director of Kite 2 years ago, but I remain as a member of the Board of Trustees. Last July this year, I accepted the role as Executive Director of the National Palliative and Hospice Care Council of the Philippines, or for short, Hospice Philippines. I am continuing the journey of psychosocial care and expanding this in other similar frontiers to create compassionate communities, one town and city at a time. We hope to train families and organizations and other members of communities on how to provide quality care from the beginning until the end of a patient's journey. This is another challenge, and with God's grace, I hope I will be able to take this on. The Ozanam Award made me reflect on my life journey. It has been a journey of immersion and responding to an unmet need. Along the way, I realized it was not enough just to respond, but to ensure the response would result to meaningful impact thus the effort to create systems change. All throughout this journey, I know and I felt the Lord's hand as He led me to this place where I am now. I sincerely believe God has and will always make a way. Thank you once again for the Ozanam Award. It is a reminder for me to continue God's work. Maraming salamat po.
Set in an imaginary Muslim context and performed through the traditional Bajau dance, Sintang Dalisay is a testament to Dr. Ricky Abad's innovative spirit. Tanghalang Ateneo joins us this afternoon to perform an excerpt from Sintang Dalisay, showing us how theater can be used for celebration, inspiration, and transformation, just as Dr. Abad did throughout his life. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Tanghalang Ateneo.
Ang pag-iibigan, malinaw na lugod. Kapwa nilang anak, nag-alay pagtirog. Dooy nagsitubo, saya manay tagpo. Simula nagsayaw ng mga bituin. Simula! Damit mo ang iyong asawa. Ikaw na may damit din niya. Larawan ng iyong gandang kasimbaris. Sa wagas mong sintang, walang kasintamis. Asahan mo'y siyang limbagan ng isip upang ako'y huwag supilin ng hapis.
Ikaw ang tanging buhay ko sa lupa. Hindi
ang tinapay at iba pang tuwa. Makita ka lamang, busog ko'y sagana. Sakit may mabigat, ginhaway sagana!
Sinabi sa akin ng nanay ko, anak, pagtanda mo, magtanim ka ng puno. Kasi pag magtatanim ka ng puno, hindi magbabaha. So hindi mauulit yung mandami-daming namatay. Yung natira doon, nautos ng nanay ko, namunga. And I had this passion na gustong-gusto ko magtanim ng puno.
This lush forest of more than 700,000 trees used to be a barren mountainside. This is the realized vision of one man who, amidst a peaceful revolution that overthrew a dictator, felt driven to do something more than what he had been doing. Something more for the country, for the common good. 1986, the year of the EDSA revolution, Alberto Toto Malvar volunteered to be involved in reforestation projects. Under the Ingat Gubat Foundation, he participated in projects to reforest 300 hectares of land in Capas, Tarlac, and another 5,000 hectares at the border of Tarlac and Zambales. Having gained knowledge in reforestation, Toto decided to apply what he learned and start his own reforestation project in an important watershed, the Upper Marikina watershed in the Sierra Madre, which serves as a vital source of water for Metro Manila and critical in preventing flooding in the area during typhoons. He left his successful agribusiness to live in Calawis, an upland barangay and the poorest in Antipolo, to start his reforestation project within the vicinity of Mount Puro.
Pangarap nila, mabuhay lang. Pangarap ko, kalikasan. Medyo hindi tugma. So, ang realization namin, if you want to take care of the forest, you have to take care of the people.
The project came with challenges, from the skepticism of the local community, the Dumagat group whose livelihood was charcoal making, to attacks by the New People's Army, to government raids and closure orders, citing operational permit deficiencies. But Toto Malvar was undaunted. He remained committed to his mission and dealt with all the problems in front of him. Toto spent years with the Dumagat in order to gain a deeper understanding of their needs. He realized that a reforestation project should always consider the welfare of those living in the forest. This led to the creation of the ecological park, Mount Puro Nature Reserve, a social enterprise providing alternative livelihood to those engaged in environmentally harmful practices in the Upper Marikina watershed, as well as an ecotourism site educating visitors on environmental care.
Ang GNP to us means God, nature, people. Pagmamahal sa Panginoon, pagmamahal mo sa kalikasan mo, pagmamahal mo sa kapwa mo, yun ang true measure of development.
The Mount Puro Nature Reserve shows all the good things about Alberto Malvar. His love for the environment, his good work and his ability to sustain it, and his profound care for the other.
Mr. Alberto M. Malvar is requested to approach center stage for the reading of the citation by Father Joaquin Jose Marie C. Sampaico III, S.J., Vice President for Basic Education.
In recognition of his lifelong commitment to stewardship, simplicity, and sharing, for demonstrating his love for his country by fighting for what is right, and for embodying what it means to be a person for and with others, the Ateneo de Manila University confers the Lux Indomino Award on Alberto M. Malvar.
Father Yap will now present the award to Mr. Malvar. We would like to request his wife, Mrs. Azucena S.G. Malvar, and son, Dr. Alberto Teodoro Malvar, to join Mr. Malvar on stage. Mr. Malvar will now give his response.
Hindi ko muna babasahin yung nakasulat dito. Ang saya-saya ko po ngayong araw na to. Kasi po nung dumisisyon ako magpunta ng bundok, ang lahat ng mga kaibigan ko, sinasabi, ba't mo iiwanan ng pamilya mo? Pero ngayon, andito ko, nakaharap sa inyo. More than 30 years ago, namundok ako. Ngayon, may nangyari. Hindi dahil sa akin, dahil sa Panginoon. Maraming salamat, Panginoon. Mahal na mahal kita. Salamat, Ateneo. Sa Ateneo, nung grade school ako, dito ko nakatanggap ng First Holy Communion. Yung First Holy Communion ko, tulo ng tulo ang luha ko. Hindi ko mapigilan. Sabi ko sa Panginoon noon, Panginoon, susundin kita. Tapos, high school, college, nag-cheerleader ako. I was leading the Ateneans, the school, to one big fight. One big fight, fly high. So, pumasok talaga sa puso ko yun. One big fight, fly high. Maski ano mangyari. More than 30 years ago, I was standing on the hill in the Sierra Madre mountain range when I heard these three words. Pangarap, pag-asa, kasama. Dream, hope, companions. God refreshed in my heart a dream to love nature, planted by my mother, Elisa, to plant trees and prevent flooding. This time, it came with a call to action, relocate and live in the mountains with the poor upland community and bring back the forest. I decided to follow the call. It was a leap of faith. After I made the decision, I felt a deep peace. And that peace can only come from God. I was afraid. Tatakot ako. But then I heard God say, do not be afraid. I will be with you till the end of time. Tapos meron pa siyang pahabol. And I will send you companions each and every step along the way to help you in your journey. Understandably, my wife was very, very worried when I shared my decision. We were only 18 years married then, but we already had 7 children. Sabi ng asawa ko, nasisira na ba ang ulo mo? How can we send our children to school when you are going to put all our financial resources in reforestation? Tigilan mo na yung kalokohan mo. I had no answers, but I just knew I had to say yes to God's call. Saan ko nakuha ang tapang at lakas ng loob? Sa Panginoon. Panginoon, kapag ika'y pumasok sa puso ni numan, hahamakin ng lahat, masunod ka lamang. And so I live in the mountains. I knew the journey would be difficult, but I did not know that it was going to be that difficult. The community was hostile to us. They thought we were out to get their land. Nananakawin namin yung lupa nila. They made false reports to the NPA. I invested so much in bringing equipment for reforestation work. But the NPAs attacked us. 41 people. 5 babae. Inatake kami, sinunog kami. They burned everything. Ang pangarap noon ng mga dumagat gaya ng kaibigan kong si Kaimo ay maraming kanin at maraming asin. Pangarap niya yon. Talagang hirap ang buhay. We had to do reforestation using our own resources and at no cost to government. The situation was overwhelmingly difficult. But we survived. Nakaraos. How did we do that? Because of God, nature, and people. Love affair with God, a love affair with nature, and a love affair with the people. Alam mo, pagmahal mo, pagmahal na mahal mo, magagawa mo. This love was planted in my DNA from my grandfather, General Miguel Malvar. It was nurtured and gradually deepened over time. We have overcome with God's help and the companions He sent to accompany us. What is the situation now? Ang buhay ko po ay isang milagro. I don't believe in miracles. I rely on miracles. Noong dumating ako sa bundok, ang kapal pa ng buhok ko. Ngunit ang bundok, kalbo. Walang puno. Ngayon, may mga puno na ang mga bundok. Ako na lang po ang kalbo. Nakapagtanim na po kami ng 700,000 trees ayon sa DENR noong 1999. Nitong nakaraang 2 taon, nadagdagan pa namin ng higit 135,124 trees at no government cost. Noon po, wala kaming tubig na mainom. Pero tanim lang kami ng tanim at dasal ng dasal. Kalaunan, bigla na lang nabuhay ang mga patay na bukal. Ngayon, may malinis na kaming tubig na maiinom at nakapagsusupply pa kami ng tubig sa 150 household. Noon, maraming may sakit maraming namamatay na lamang na hindi man lang nakakakita ng doktor. Ngayon, may 2 senior medical interns na kami galing sa Ateneo School of Medicine. Monday to Friday, buong taon. Noon, walang tiwala ang komunidad sa amin. Ngayon, nagmamahalan na kami. Tumulong kami sa pagpapatayo ng eskwelahan. Nagpasimula ng patubig at ng health center. May pa-scholarship pa at iba pang project sa bayanihan sa kabuhayan. Ang anak namin, si Dr. TJ, ay tumakbo bilang kagawad. Kahit 2 araw lang ng kampanya at hindi bumili ng boto. Number 2, kagawad. As a recognition of our efforts working together for the community, my family and I were adopted by the Dumagats in November 2017 as one of their traditional ceremony. Noong nakaraang pandemic, as a family, we set up Puso Kitchen, feeding 2,200 families from March to July 2020 with the help of generous corporate sponsors and foundations, friends and families, at ordinaryong mamamayan gaya ng mga dumagat. Noon, walang trabaho po sa amin. Ngayon, dahil sa reforestation at ecotourism ng Mount Puro Nature Reserve, nakapagbibigay na kami ng kabuhayan sa higit kumulang 100 pamilya o 500 tao. Noon, hindi gaanong maayos ang teamwork namin sa gobyerno. Ngayon, kakampi na namin sa layuning ibalik ang kagubatan at mabawasan ang baha. Umaasa kaming magtutulungan pa, lalo na't bumisita na sa amin si Secretary Yulo Loizaga. Nakapagpatayo pa kami ng magandang bamboo chapel, ang kapilya ng Inang Kalikasan o kapilya ng Desierra Madre, bilang paalala na lahat ay nagsisimula at nagtatapos sa dasal. Malayo na po ang narating namin, ngunit malayo pa ang tatahakin. Marami pang gagawin. At tulad ng dati, kailangan namin ng inyong suporta. We wish to invite you to visit our Mount Puro Nature Reserve and see what God has done through us. Check our website. Support our ecotourism. Reforestation and environment awareness education programs. Kailangan ng mga kabataan to. Maraming salamat. Ito uulitin ko. Maraming salamat sa aking minamahal na baby, ang aking asawa. 54 years na kaming kasal. Minahal niya ako ng todo sa kabila ng lahat ng kalokohan ko. Ngayon, kasama kami sa bundok. Halos 30 taon na. Maraming salamat din sa aking 7 anak, sa kanilang mga asawa, at sa 20 kong apo. Nandoon sila parati sa likod ko. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga kasama namin, sa mga korporasyon at foundation na naniniwala sa kakayahan namin para itaas ang kabuhayan ng mga mahihirap. At higit sa lahat, muli, maraming salamat, Ateneo. Ang dami kong natutunan. Hindi sa loob ng classroom, pero sa kalabas ng classroom. Sa mga kawalang ginagawa namin dito para sa Panginoon. Ang galing talaga ng Ateneo. One big fight talaga. The Ateneo education inculcated in me 3 guiding principles in my life. 1, see God in all things. Alam niyo po, nung bago pa lang ako doon sa bundok, pag nakakita ko at gusto ko nang umatras sa hirap, pag nakakita ko ng mahirap, totoo, ang nakikita ko ay si Jesus sa mahihirap. Nakikita ko si Jesus sa kalikasan. Ang galing niya. See God in all things. Tapos, prayer for generosity. Give, and don't count the cost. And one big fight for God, nature, and people. And so, to my fellow Ateneans, alamin ninyo ang inyong pangarap, pag-asa, at kasama. Find out your purpose in life and live it. There is more to life than just making money. We are all called to be person with and for others. To my beloved school, ang mahal kong Ateneo. Pasensya na po, yun ang pinakamagaling na eskwelahan sa mundo. To my beloved school, please make available to your students more opportunities to connect with nature and to connect with the urban poor, the rural poor, and the upland poor on a regular basis. Live with them, eat with them, play with them. It's such a joy. Di po ba ito ang panawagan ng Laudato Si? You will notice the big difference that nature can do to the young and even to the old. Let us go up the mountain to find strength in prayer, just as Jesus did. Nang tayo'y pagkapagpatuloy, magmahal sa Diyos, pangalagaan ang kalikasan, at tumulong sa ating mga komunidad. Muli, maraming salamat, Ateneo. One big fight for God, nature, and people. One big fight! One big fight!
Early on in my playwriting career, I was very, very much enamored of historical subject matter. I like to focus on that one moment that encapsulate whole experiences, yung buong kamalayan, yung buong kwento ng isang buhay na reflect sa isang insidente lamang.
Many of Floyd Quintos's plays are informed by his deep interest in history and politics. But in Quintos's hands, even his most political play is never didactic. It does not lecture. Instead, it makes us ask important questions about ourselves, about our country. Floyd once said, "My biggest fear when writing a play is that it becomes didactic. My biggest challenge as a playwright is, how does it affect us as human beings? How is it a human situation instead of a history lesson or a narrative?" Two of his most successful theatrical productions, The Condiman Party and Reconciliation Dinner, were deeply political but far from didactic. The plays were staged or restaged close to the highly polarizing 2022 presidential election.
I thought how interesting this moment is in our history when we can fight back using art, using music, and yes, using social media.
In Clinton Palanca's review of The Condiman Party, he said, "Floyd Quintos has mastered the poetics of protest and discontent, as well as the poetics of peacetime. His plays delve into the depths of Philippine culture, while retaining a core of conflict and sense of theater. In one turn, he can be erudite and vulgar. He poses so many questions, but leaves us to figure out the answers." Quintos asks, what is the place of art in contemporary society? And by that, we mean a politically charged world. It is a question that is difficult to answer and can lead to long discussions. Floyd Quintos was an acclaimed playwright, a 9-time winner of the prestigious Palanca Memorial Award for Literature. His deep sense of history has led him to write plays about particular events in our past. The play, St. Louis Loves Them Filipinos, was inspired by the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, and Isang Panaginip na Fili is a daring revisionist take on Rizal's El Filibusterismo.
We are here to tell you what should have been, what could have been. And that's the magic of it. That's the joy of playwriting.
Floy Quintos left us a prodigious body of work, 24 plays that will compel us to look more bravely into ourselves, think more deeply about our culture and what has become of it, and simply ask more questions about us as a people.
Receiving the award for Mr. Florencio Luis Antonio Quintos II is his brother, Dr. Albert Jerome Quintos. Dr. Quintos is requested to approach center stage for the reading of the citation by Dr. Patricia Lambino, Dean of the School of Humanities.
For the sheer breadth and brilliance of his works, that not only expanded modern Philippine theater, but also enriched the Filipino audience's appreciation for arts, entertainment, and history. For guiding aspiring thespians through collaborations, and for exploring the intricacies of humanity, delving into the soul and consciousness of the Filipino. The Ateneo de Manila University posthumously confers the Gawad Tanglaw ng Lahi Award on Florencio Luis Antonio Quintos II.
Father Yap will now present the award to Dr. Quintos. Dr. Quintos will now give his response.
Good afternoon, everyone. Esteemed members of the Board of Trustees, President Roberto Yap, Vice President for Higher Education, Father Joaquin Jose Marie Sumpayco, Vice President for Administration, Mr. Rodolfo Ang, Vice President for Finance, Ms. Eloisa Balmoriz, Vice President for Human Resources, Dr. Maria Victoria Cortez, Vice President for Digital Information and IT Services, Ms. Janice Bello, and Vice President for Mission Integration, Dr. Benjamin Gerardo Tolosa. Good afternoon. I am here representing the Quintos family to give thanks to all of you for this tribute given to my brother Floy. It is a great honor and celebration to receive this award on his behalf. Sadly, it is not one without sorrow. His sudden departure from our lives late April this year left us all in shock and grief. Our extended families, the Quintoses, and on my mother's side, the De La Cruz family in Davao City, still remain at a loss. We are discovering how death creates an emptiness that can be a constant in life, an absence that remains in the form and shape of my beloved brother. The unexpected loss, his swift departure from our midst, means that so much work is left unfinished. So many words we no longer have the opportunity to speak. Beyond our admiration for and our pride in his achievements, we would have expressed our love and our gratitude for everything he was doing for us, his family. In the months that followed, the unspoken words that have become a kind of mantra, "Hoy, Floy," as though we were just picking up on an ongoing conversation with him, as though we had never stopped talking. My brother connected to different members of the family in different ways. As the eldest, not only in our immediate family, he was also of more than 20 cousins. He was schooled in the traditional hierarchies of family. He was punong abala and comité de festejos, all rolled in one. In our frequent family gatherings, he would take charge of finding places to host us and decorating our gatherings with flowers and ensuring that everyone was welcome. As the head of the hierarchy of cousins, he proved ready to relate to all others, even those much younger than he was, always up close and personal. He had this gift. He really talked to you even as he kept conversation with so many others. Since his wake, we have discovered that this gift was felt even far outside of the family. His warm friendship welcomed all those he worked with, in theater, in movies, in showbiz, and in his anthropological work. In the months after his death, our family found it difficult to get together because getting together made us feel more that he was not there, an absence we will have to bear, a lesson to learn, a skill to practice for the rest of our lives. But God has been kind. His death opened his public life to us, his family, connecting us to the communities he worked with. The many people who condoled with us revealed how widely and deeply he had carved his place. We were drawn into their various efforts to explore the different facets, aspects, and nuances of our national culture. So many people from the performing arts industry clamored to pay him one final tribute. The Ramon Ubusan Folkloric Group performed folk dances dedicated to the death of a great leader. Singers, choirs, and instrumentalists of every genre sang him his favorite songs. The teachers of O.B. Montessori, whom he trained to make their lessons more engaging, readily took care of catering, seating, and printing. The ladies of a Makati village, whose Christmas pageant he directed each year, offered ready assistance. All people whose advocacies he supported. His theater family also paid him tribute with beautiful eulogies and technical engineering. As a director and mentor, he was at the helm of many theater projects, many of which held Philippine culture lovingly at their center. His actors, production crew, and students all felt his influence deeply. They feel the same absence our family does, missing their direct. Often forgotten in the glitz and glamour of his career in the performing arts was his work in the preservation of indigenous art. At the closing of his antique art gallery after 20 years of operation, all friends from the community gathered for one final meeting. Collectors, anthropologists, historians, curators, and writers from all walks of life came in the sweltering June heat to share memories of Floy with each other. He frequently assisted in the writing and curation of exhibits and gave talks on indigenous art. His own extensive collection was a reflection of his deep fascination with and love for our history. To most, Floy was an artist first and a collector second. To the community at Gallery Deus, he was a collector and curator first of all. His love for country even extended to the second highest seat of power in our nation. Former Vice President Leni Robredo paid a short visit to Floy in gratitude for his direction of the opening rally in her campaign for presidency. From the highest of political officials to the chieftain of Ifugao bloodlines, to the bright-eyed young actors of the theater, to the most influential businessmen, to the humblest of workers, the masa, you would be hard-pressed to find a corner of the country where his kindness, generosity, and genius was not felt. I thought I knew my brother, but I was overwhelmed to discover how wide and far-reaching his influence was. How he reached out and responded to requests or opportunities to assist, to collaborate, to expand the efforts of so many other groups. How he shared his God-given gifts with them. I was caught off guard by the gratitude of the Philippine Bonsai Society and tried to imagine how indeed his work could reach a field that seemed so far removed from his sphere. His last play, Grace, went on stage shortly after. The circle of theater greats brought to life the struggle of the discalced Carmelite sister Teresing to understand her visionary gift. His Marian devotion and steadfast faith in the Lord extended the reach of God's message and the proclamation of the divine. Despite not being a theologian himself, he exhibited a profound understanding of the Catholic faith that could give even the most studied of Jesuits pause. In his work, he uplifted not only the Filipino, but our God. And so, it is not his family's grief that I bear on this stage today. It is our profound gratitude for his life, for his work, for his gifts that he so lovingly shared with us. We continue to recall the generous expression and acknowledgement, not just of his work, but also of his friendship. This he gave freely, creating an extraordinary legacy. We were gifted with testimonials, performances, and songs dedicated to him by his friends. And with grace, he has gifted the public with one final masterpiece that leaves a deep and powerful imprint in the minds and hearts of all who see it. It is in this context that we, his family, receive for him the Ateneo de Manila's Gawad Tanglaw ng Lahi Award, which includes Floy among the geniuses of our nation. Floy always held so much respect for this institution. He attended the Ateneo de Manila grade school, his first home away from home. My parents were overwhelmed with the prospect of costs of tuition for 2 sons in the Ateneo and asked Floy if he could consider going to UPIS for high school. Noon pa lang mahal na ang Ateneo. He did and went to the State University and there made his mark. My parents kept me in the Ateneo through high school, perhaps feeling that I needed the guidance that the Jesuits and its teachers could provide. And I know in my heart, Floy also knew this too. But his love and respect for this institution never wavered. He would often give talks for Atenean students, instilling in them the need to find their unique voice. He frequently worked with members of the San Jose Seminary. Many of his dearest friends were alumni and professors of the Ateneo. And in 2014, it was the Ateneo University Press with whom he collaborated to publish the 2 anthologies of his plays. The second run of Grace was lovingly staged right here in Areté with the help of his friends. The Jesuit mark on his character was indelible. Again, I speak for all of us Quintosians, a term that Floy had coined to describe the clan spirit, the kindredness expressed in the joy of a family who are also dear friends and for some, best friends forever. We are all immensely proud of what my brother has accomplished, and we remain full of gratitude for this honorable recognition. On their behalf, I thank you all.
I learned that this God does not really call the perfect. He actually calls those who would have the imperfections yet are open to be formed.
At the height of President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs, Father Flavie Villanueva was one of the few who had the courage to speak out against the campaign, even if he knew that doing so posed a danger to his life. The backlash was swift. His denunciation of the campaign invited persecution on social media, threats, and physical attacks. The government accused him, along with some other church leaders, of sedition for conspiring to undermine the government. Father Flavie believes in hope, and that's what's needed and must be given to those who have fallen victim. Hope is what Father Flavie wanted to offer when he established Arnold Jansen Kalinga, Kain at Ligo ng Ayos Center in Manila.
The goal is to help restore the self-worth. From creating the self-image, reclaiming the self-respect, restoring their self-worth, that completes their human dignity, and thus recreate and empower their lives.
It is a holistic shelter for the homeless, named after the saint who founded his order, the Society of the Divine Word.
Akin madami kasi ang pag-ilong yung bumuo sa akin.
Dahil sa kanila, binibigyan kami ng lakas loob para lumaban. Kaya natin to. Sila ang nagbibigay sa amin ng lakas.
In 2017, when the war on drugs campaign intensified, Father Flavi established Program Paghilom, an integrated holistic program that aims to help the widows and orphans of extrajudicial killing victims rebuild and recreate their lives.
As someone who is imperfect, I felt wounded. And it was in that woundedness that I perhaps found my vocation. I perhaps could also try to be that wounded healer to the homeless, to the victim in today's society.
Father Fabiano I. Villanueva, SBD, is requested to approach center stage for the reading of the citation by Father Norberto Bautista, SJ, Director of the Office of University Development and Alumni Affairs.
For shining a light on the lived experience of substance abuse, for becoming a caring presence who accompanies individuals considered hopeless, misfits, rejects, the kind even their own families have given up, and for making healing, recovery, and faith possible to the unseen, the unheard, and the forsaken. The Ateneo de Manila University confers the Bukas Palad Award on Father Fabiano Antonio L. Villanueva, SVD.
Father Yap will now present the award to Father Flaviano L. Villanueva, SVD. We would like to call Ms. Vay Lopez Myers and Father Randy Flores, SVD, to join Father Villanueva on stage. Father Villanueva will now give his response.
Nakakakaba naman ang mga tingin nyo. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. I was told that I had one of the, if not the longest list of guests. Sabi ko, ang ginawa ko lang naman magpakain at mga linga. Bakit kailangan meron pang ganitong award? Pero maniwala man ho kayo hindi ho ako sanay sa mga ganito. But I would like to thank and begin by saying thank you so much. Maraming salamat po. I feel deeply grateful, humbled, and honored to stand here before you. To the people behind the 2024 Traditional University Awards led by distinguished Chairperson Bernardine T.C., Ateneo de Manila University headed by its President, Father Roberto C. Yap, to the Ateneo de Manila, the faculty, the non-teaching staff, the students, to my brother Jesuits, to dear friends from the European Union, Ambassador Mariel of Netherlands, Ambassador Andres, Germany. And I would like to also recognize special friends. One of them is Andy. He's a living testament of someone who lived for at least 9 years in the streets. And kung titignan niyo po siya ngayon, nakita ko siya kaninang hapon, naka-gel, may relo, naka-pink shirt. Sabi ko, gosh, di ka na homeless. Andy, baka sabihin nagsisinungaling ako. Can you rise? Pwede ka ba tumayo, Andy? Ayun po. Andy was one of the homeless people who we welcomed. Aba, hindi ka na nakapink, ha? Another one would be, or at least 4, that is Lovely and Jocelyn, 2 of the most courageous orphans that I know. Unfortunately, Danica, who would like to specially mention, who is not here, but she was the one who told me last week, Father, sasamahan kita, lalong higit sa Senado, upang magpatotoo sa kwento ng aking ama kung paano pinaslang ng mga pulis. Lovely, Jocelyn, can you please rise? Andun sila. 2 dalaga, magkokolyola na po sa tulong ng isang kapatid dito and si Jocelyn. The widows, there are 3 widows, o 2 lang pala, yung isa nagpupumilit. Pero siya po ang aming field coordinator, si Randy De Los Santos, si Yeye, tsaka si Erica. Randy is one who helps me gather and shepherd the 312. And by next week, we would be 326. May I invite Randy, Yeye, and Erica to be recognized. These are prime volunteers, widows. Sila yung nawalan, pero sila pa yung nangangalinga sa kasalukuyan. Salamat po. My SVD friends, or my SVD family, headed by Father Randy, Father Milo, Father Alan, the representative of my family, my mother and father passed away. I have my cousins with me, Vay, Julie, and Mitzi. The staff and volunteers of SVD, the JPIC SVD PHC office, and the Arnold Jansen Kalinga Foundation headed by the dynamic at kilala nyo siyang hindi natutulog dahil sa trabaho ng trabaho, Ms. Teresita Castillo. I was a kind of activist o baka rebelde pa nga, lalong higit nung pinatay si Ninoy. Kinaladkad ako ng aking ama para makita yung parada ng kanyang ataol at doon ko rin po nakuha yung inspirasyon kung paano ilibing si Kian de los Santos. Sabi ko sa pamilya, huwag natin itago si Kian. Ilabas natin siya upang makita na madla kung paano binalahura at hindi siya nakapag-test sapagkat pinaslang siya sa hindi napaka-rumal-dumal na paraan. I want to say is that there were friends who inspired me to be the person once again who was asked and taught by parents to be truthful and just, friends and advocates in upholding the sacredness and rights of life and truth, justice and democracy. Let me begin by a fellow awardee, now Cardinal Pablo David, Bishop Soc Villegas, Bishop Abilio, the late Pix Picardal, and Chito Gascon. These people were with me at the beginning, at the height of the onslaught of the Duterte administration. Priests who supported me kahit hindi kami magkakapatid sa SVD. Father Pon Vasquez, OMI, Robert Reyes is here, Paring Bert Alejo, Father Manuling Francisco, Pat Falgueras, and former SJ, Father Javi Alpasa. Hindi niyo po natatanong, mas madalas po ako dito sa Ateneo nung panahon ni Duterte sapagkat hindi gaanong, medyo sikat si Duterte sa SVD. Sabi na nga ba, tatawa kayo eh. Medyo sikat ng konti dahil si Tony Pernia po ay kamag-anak, pero hindi naman ho naglaho. Ganun pa man, hindi ako sikat sa SVD noon, kaya dito po ako nagtatago. O ako po yun nadamay. Huwag na natin alamin kung si Paring Bert ba o ako. But more importantly, thank you for the refuge. Thank you for welcoming me as family. I did mention Father Ted Gonzalez, of course. And dearest donors and benefactors, awardees, especially good friend Senator Laila, having recognized you, my dearest friends, let me begin by the beautiful prayer. Panginoon, turuan mo akong maging bukas palad. Turuan mo akong maglingkod sa iyo na magbigay ng ayon sa nararapat na walang hinihintay mula sa iyo. I'm sure all of us are familiar with those lines from the revered song, Panalangin ng Pagiging Bukas Palad. It is one of those songs that in such a classic way, we hardly remember the first time we ever heard it. In my case, it was introduced to me by, sige na nga, a special San Juan back in 1991. Lalo kayong tatawa kasi taga-Lasal siya, hindi Atenista. Bagamat yung kanta ay galing sa inyo. We would sing it together when we would quarrel, that would be a binding song to reconcile with one another. We would play it in the car. We would sing it when we would be climbing mountains. But when I was singing it already all by myself, the relationship ended. Hiniwalayan niya na ako. But somehow, by God's grace, or God's design, for me, the song remained a love song. And maybe even more than a love song. The song continues by saying, nang makibakang di inaalintana mga hirap na dinaranas, sa tuwin ay magsumikap na hindi humahanap ng kapalit na kaginhawahan. When alone, the song became my solace. When I walked to work, when I would be playing, when I would be training for a competition, or when I was broke, which mas madalas po yun. This song would reverberate in my mind, but the most treasured moment when I would love to really hear this song was after Holy Communion. It was that moment that I felt truly God's presence. It was a true case of LSS. Alam niyo yung LSS? Hindi po life in the spirit. Last song syndrome. In retrospect, I realized our Lord wanted me to associate this song with love. A human love with true human love that gives till it hurts, as Saint Teresa of Calcutta places it. A love that calls one to abandon everything in order to embrace a stranger. A love that may bring out death threats, sedition, and red tagging cases, but was still the kind of love that calls you to persist and to simply love. More than anything, I realized the song was about His love. His love that refuses to let me go during the times when I couldn't even love myself. Our Lord's love was like this song that was literally everywhere in life. It was glaringly reflected even when I stubbornly denied its reality and presence. The song is alive not just through the many significant others, but it also began in the first images of God in my life, and that would be no other than my family of three. Gregorio, my father, Celia, my mother, who are both now in heaven, and my only sister, Annette, in the U.S. Binanggit ko yung kapatid ko ha, kahit walang padalang dalar. They have been the first and foremost mentors of what faith and hope, truth and charity were about. Dinagdag ko yung charity kasi madaming bilin po yung kapatid ko sa akin next week, papuntang Amerika. The moment of truth about his love was when I realized my drug intake was getting out of control, and the only way I knew how to get out was going cold turkey. Yes, a drug addict in front of you. Yes, a priest, drug addict in front of you. Surprise, si Senator Bato nakurantang nung nakita niya nung isang linggo. Pare, adik. Sabi ko, wala akong sinabing paring adik. Hindi siya gaano nakapag-isip. The process of withdrawal was heartbreaking, if not gut-wrenching. The song, along with true friends, passed no judgment or criticism, but simply offered a beautiful, loving acceptance. This became my refuge. Kaya may pag-asa po ang drug addict. Hindi dapat patayin at lalong hindi dapat pasabugin ng bungo. There seems to be a big gap in the story. How did I, from singing that song in the car, to stand here before you receiving this award? Where did this calling to be an advocate for the homeless and the victims of the war on drugs executed by Mr. Duterte begin? My desire to help them came as a surprise even to me. I would be lying if I told you that setting up a shelter where the homeless are received with dignified, with systematic and holistic care was my biggest dream. I would be lying once again if I claim that I know how it feels to violently lose a loved one, just like our beloved orphans and widows, because I do not know. I don't even understand why the office of the Justice, Peace, Integrity of Creation was given to me, because when I went inside the office, there was literally nothing, not even in the bank account. The main reason being that it was difficult and or even among my conference, you know this for a fact, the Arnold Janssen Kalinga Center that stands today was doubted, if not outright rejected. The idea of its setting up was impossible. Those were their reasons. Pero nagbago naman ho ang ihip ng hangin. Full support daw po sila ngayon sa akin. But then again, despite all this, after 9 years, Arnold Janssen stands today as a testament of God's grace. On a daily basis, kain, ligo ng ayos is provided to at least 377 homeless. We have at least 122 out-of-school youth, homeless, and victims of EGK who have finished their education in the secondary level. During the pandemic, and this is where I see the one big fight is connected with Brother Armin. When I needed a shelter because we were closed down by the police and the barangay, I called good friend Brother Armin to open the doors to receive homeless people. Tanong niya, ilan? Sabi ko, basta magbukas ka. And he asks again, ilan ang homeless na ipapasok mo sa Lasal? Sabi ko, palagi na lang tayo nagiinom. Tumulong ka naman. Bago ako tumulong, gusto ko malaman kung ilan. Ayaw bumigay ng brother. Sabi ko, 200. Sabi niya, alaay, magbarik na lang kita. Panahon ng COVID, hindi niya matanggihan, nagbukas ng 2 shelter ang Lasal. Pero ang pinakamagara, Ateneo wanted to be part of that 7 safe shelter who were providing 500 full meals during the time of the COVID. Ateneo persevered. It took us weeks in dialogues to prepare and pave way to cross from Manila to Katipunan. or even Novaliches. It was difficult, close to saying impossible. But that was just the beginning of Ateneo's help. Hindi man nagkatotoo physically na magdala ng homeless at kumupkup at mangalingang Ateneo, nagbukas naman ng napakalaking wallet at nagpadala ng napakalaking tseke. Sabi ko kay Brother Armin, animo Ateneo. All I can say is that the testament of God's grace is not about me. It's not even about you and me. It is simply about grace. The ideas, the developments were deeply inspired by divine inspiration. Seeing hungry people looking for food, in search of a cup of hope, a safe space to lay their heads. This was what surrounded being Catholic trade every day. I felt strongly connected to them, but we were certainly worlds apart. Something was calling me to do more. The persistent question was, how can the homeless people recognize the divine word made flesh in their midst? I saw a young barefooted children and their families digging for food in the trash. It was a painful thing to watch. I realized that perhaps even a former drug addict who lived a young and crazy life can be an instrument of grace. Perhaps bukas palad meant the craziness to be open to God's grace. Maybe my resolve was the fruit of my upbringing, including my scars and my glimmers of stars that during my growing years were planted unconsciously. A foundation was created simply to assist in recreating and empowering the lives of the homeless, the victims of violence, one person at a time. And at this moment, I would like to also recognize the first religious to come to the doors of Kalinga. And that religious is a Jesuit, Frater Bien Cruz. Thank you for teaching me to be a man and a person for others. Soon enough, a year after its birth in 2015, Arnold Jansen Kalinga Center was shocked, just like all of us, because of the killings of the Duterte administration commenced. In the first day, 36 were killed, July 1, and the first one was shed. Suddenly, there were thousands of families finding themselves without a father, a brother, a son, almost overnight. What was someone like me supposed to do? Again, Program Paghilom was like a leap into the unknown, but with faith. Ang sabi ng kanta, na di maghihintay, kundi ang aking mabatid, na ang loob mo'y siyang sinusundan. These were, or perhaps these are the most enigmatic lines from the song. I realized by the grace of God is more than a song. It is a calling. Bukas Palad is more than an award. It is a mission. Bukas Palad is a prayer of faith that calls one to question myself or oneself, and yet believes and clings to the God who beckons and calls. Bukas Palad is a call to mission, a mission that is never about shelling a few coins or never about writing a check or donating millions of pesos. Pero kung meron po kayo, tatanggapin ko po. This call continues to ask us disturbing questions. Bakit maraming gutom at walang bahay? Bakit tila popular pa rin ang maraming pumapalakpak sa bastos? Bakit tuloy pa rin ang patayan at walang tuldok at walang nakukulong, lalong higit sa mga pumatay at naglikha ng tukhang? These questions are true even to this very day, as I witnessed it last week at the Senate hearing. Bukas Palad is collaborative. It means radically and creatively doing mission at a time when people are lost and are in search of their moral compass, when democratic institutions have been compromised. Bukas Palad is a mission to help care for the wounded, to bring back some semblance of normalcy into broken lives. Lives like Andy, Jocelyn, Danica, and Lovely. Bukas Palad is saying yes to the following, to follow God's call even when we don't understand His ways. I stand here before you, now with hair, like Toto without before or until now, pero nagpakalbo po ako sa pakikiisa sa mga nawalan sa buhay. It was my first act of protest and the prompting of the Spirit calling me to radical ways during radical times. I stand here not as someone better, nor more capable, or more courageous, and most certainly not the holiest. I am simply a sinner who has been touched by grace, and I'm loved for who I am. Thank you, Ateneo, for recognizing the humble work of the foundation. Maraming salamat po sa ibinigay ninyong award. Ito po ay tinatanggap ko sa ngalan ng mga taong patuloy na tumitindig kahit binababa sa mga biktima, sa mga homeless, at sa mga taong tinatawag ding maging bukas palad. This award is for you and me. This award is for us. This award is about making things decent once again and protecting life in all its sacredness. May God, the Lord, repay you in beautiful ways I will never able to do so. Ad majorem Dei gloriam.
Father Yap will now present each of our awardees with a replica of the Sacred Heart statuette carved by Philippine national hero and Ateneo alumnus Dr. Jose P. Rizal. The original statuette of the Sacred Heart was carved with a penknife by Rizal when he was a student in the Ateneo de Manila from 1872 to 1877 and is entrusted to the University Archives for safekeeping. May we ask all of our awardees to stand in the approach center stage. May we request our vice presidents to join our awardees and Father Yap at center stage for a group photo.
The Ateneo de Manila University's traditional awards are a recognition of the many heroes and heroines in our midst, people we can look up to and emulate, people from whom we can draw inspiration and hope. On behalf of the university community, we congratulate all our awardees, Ricardo G. Abad, Gawad Tanglaw ng Lahi, Raisa H. Jajuri, Government Service Award, Maria Fatima Garcia Lorenzo Ozanam Award, Alberto M. Malvar Lux Indomino Award, Florencio Luis Antonio Quintos II Gawad Tanglaw ng Lahi, and Flaviano L. Villanueva SVD Bukas Palad Award. We welcome you all to the roster of distinguished awardees of Ateneo de Manila University. We also look forward to conferring our last 2024 Traditional University Award on Leila M. De Lima, Doctor of Sociology honoris causa, whose ceremony will take place in 2025. We thank the hardworking men and women of the Special Academic Convocation Committee and everyone who helped make this convocation possible. And most of all, we thank you all for gracing us with your presence this afternoon. Thank you, everyone. And with that, I now declare the Special Academic Convocation officially closed.
We end today's gathering by asking the help from our Blessed Mother to place us always close to her Son as we sing our alma mater song.
Between the earth and sky,
For an orderly recessional, kindly remain seated until after the stage party. Members of the Board of Trustees, school heads, and faculty have left the theater. We invite you all to a light reception at the Ubuntu space located in the main entryway of Areté. Thank you and have a pleasant evening, everyone.